What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comics, movies, TV shows. And today it's me riding solo. Lauren's off having fun in Fort Lauderdale, Tortugas, but I do have a very special guest. You have seen us talk about them quite a lot. We got to just talk with them a little bit at MegaCon, and they make some really amazing coffee that has been powering us through all of our comic reviews, whether it's here at Hops Geek News or nerdinitiative.com. It's Comics on Coffee. So Tanya will be joining me momentarily to talk about comics on coffee. But please go ahead, like, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff over at Hops Geek News, social media, podcasting platforms, and then make sure you check out what Lauren and I do over at nerdinitiative.com. But without further ado, like I said, Tanya is here to talk with us. So Tanya, thank you so much for coming to hang out with me on this wonderful Thursday evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I
So
appreciate it.
one thing that we always like to ask is how everybody's got an origin story in comic books or how you got started in the geekdom. Whether it's I just randomly picked up an X-Men comic one day or a Batman, the animated series, because I love the sweatshirt first and foremost. But how did you get involved into the comic book geek world?
For me, I think it was definitely my earliest memory would be Batman animated series. I was probably, I don't know, 8, 7. I can't remember, but I mean, I just remember I was a Warner Brothers kid, so it was Batman animated series, Looney Tunes, anything there. And from there, it just kind of went on to when I finally I think, Archie comics, at, like, the grocery stores, like
Oh
the
yeah.
impulse buy section or whatever when you're checking out. I think, I remember always seeing it there, and I'd open up the books and, it's just but I like to draw too, so it was natural for me to wanna draw anything Batman or, like, the cartoons I was watching, and, but probably Archie comics were the first actual comics that I would, read. Um, but yeah, from there, I honestly can't remember what was like the first comic book that I picked up.
Well,
Uh,
Archie's a good one. I mean, my wife is big into Archie, and they're still coming out with a lot of good Archie series now. I mean, you see a lot of Archie crossovers. I think David Papose is even doing an Archie crossover here soon. And then, I mean, Batman the animated series. I'm with you. I'm a Warner Brothers kid.
yeah,
I grew up. That's still my comfort show. Whenever I feel like
yeah,
laying down on the couch. This past weekend, Lauren was up here for GalaxyCon, and we got back, and I threw it on, and I just right to sleep on the couch. There it is. So that is a big show for me as well. I'm with you 100%. And the Looney Tunes is another good one I grew up on. And I know you mentioned you like to draw. You actually draw or did at least draw a lot of the thing labels and bags and things like that for the company, right? So how did you get into drawing? Was it just something you picked up one day?
yeah. My father had a lot to do with it. He did a lot of like architecture stuff and drafting, and he was the one that really gave me the pencil and a circle template and try to kind of started. And that was really young. I think I was probably 4 or 5 before I could read or write. I was drawing, so he had a lot of influence there, and the rest is just I just stuck with it because I enjoy it. And but yeah, so our first set of coffee bags were all my drawings. So we just when Tony, when we decided we want to do this company, we were thinking like, it can't just be a bag of coffee. It's got to be something special. And
Yeah.
we knew we were going to do a company together, like more of like as a hobby because we worked together, really well. But he was like, "Well, what's going to be our thing?" And I was like, "Well, how do we incorporate, like the comics?" And and it kind of just snowballed from there. All of our ideas, and we said, "Well, we gotta do something with drawing." Because I told him like, I want to be able to draw. I want to create our
Yeah.
own coffee bags, and from there, it's just I don't know. It kind of
Well,
it's
so
just
many things are label based. How many things do you buy based off the label? I know for whether it's beer or comics, they get the shiny foil covers for comics, for example, stand out to a lot of
yeah.
people. And then coffee, you're right there. You get on the grocery store aisle, a lot of different coffee bags. What stands out? So, how did you guys? You said I know you mentioned you worked together, came with this idea. How did the idea to start a coffee company of all things kind of come about for you guys?
So Tony's been roasting for I want to say like how old is he now? 42. So I think when he was in college, he started roasting, kind of just like as a part time job with at this like gourmet restaurant. And so I knew he was roasting. I knew he knew coffee, but when I first met him, I think I was like 19, 20. I actually hated coffee. I hated the idea. I couldn't stand the smell of coffee. I thought all coffee was just terrible, and I had no desire, and I was extremely stubborn to never try coffee. And Tony was always like, "Well, you haven't had good coffee," and I was just kind of like,
One of
"No."
those things people say, and you're like, all right, sure, I've heard that about you haven't had good seafood, you haven't had good anything. That's just a
Yeah,
thing
but
people say.
yeah, so I was adamant. I was like, "I do not like coffee. I don't want anything to do with coffee." This was when I was 19, 20, and it's because I grew up with my dad. He would brew coffee, and it was coffee that was out of like either a blue or a red tin can. And
Oh, yeah, like the
the
old
smell
Folgers.
was awful. It was just awful. I woke up angry every day having to smell that awful smell. And so that's what I really thought coffee was until Tony, he finally, I think it was like my senior year of college, and I was needing to stay up and study, and he finally he had like this 5 pound roaster at home, and he's like, I'm gonna roast this coffee and you're gonna drink it. And desperate times, right? I was
Like a
just like,
Fear Factor
okay, fine.
episode, you're just like, "Oh god, here we go."
No, he's explaining to me the whole process of coffee, and it was like all really overwhelming for me at the time. And I was just like, okay, fine, just let me try it. And he it's like fresh roasted, small, extremely micro size batch of coffee, but I think it was like a Colombian origin. And he gave me this coffee. He brewed it after, he grind it and brewed it. And I was just kind of like that moment when you realize like I was wrong all this time, and I was so
The heavens
stubborn
shine upon you,
about
and
it.
it's like, "What is this? You can it really were like, what are we drinking here? Are you sure
Oh,
this is
this is
coffee?"
not coffee. But so yeah, and that's when he introduced me to good coffee. And for years he would still continue to roast, and we'd give our coffee to friends and family. And a lot of people were like, you should sell this, and we're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
um, but when we finally decided to do like a actual business together, we said, well, it's got to be coffee. And we're like, okay, yeah, perfect coffee. The rest is history.
Yeah, you're just like, "Oh, coffee, yes." But you've had good coffee now, and you're like, "All right,
Yeah,
there we go."
yeah.
I didn't start drinking talk coffee myself till I was 18, 19, because I was like you. It's you grew up in the movies. How often do you see everyone just drinking this pure black coffee, and it's battery acid, just motor oil. And I'm like, oh no, I don't like that either. And now I got my gourmet machine too. I'm like, yeah, here we go. We got espresso on this one. And my wife's just like, I don't know what you're doing. So you, it evolves from there. You were drawing. How did you guys get involved with DC then? Because a lot of your bags are DC and then Ghost Machine as well. So how did those come into play?
Um, so Warner Brothers, that was like a Hail Mary attempt. I mean, we reached out to them, not really expecting even a response.
Yeah.
But we also sent them like our coffee, like I think it was the Outbreak, which was like our first bag. And it was just a medium roast, but it's still my art in the bag, and the comic on the back. And we just kind of kept sending them coffee, like, and eventually we got a reply, and a meeting with them. And I think it was probably 2 years of just kind of going back and forth and
Hmm.
talking with them before they
Nothing's ever
finally.
quick, especially with executives at big companies like that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But they loved our coffee. They loved the idea. I think they loved us even more because they're pretty awesome to work with. And
Yeah.
so yeah, and we're getting ready to renew our contract again. And
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
it's going great. And they give me a lot of freedom to just kind of take the bag. And as long as I stick within their requirements of don't put Batman with, I don't know.
Whomever, right?
Well, yeah, you know what I mean, like all kinds of weird things. But other than that, they let me do like pretty much almost what I want.
That's awesome because you don't see a whole lot of that these days,
No,
especially when it comes to superheroes. I mean, there's always the stipulations you got to play them with, of course, but how did you guys have to ask for certain characters? I know they gave you a lot of freedom, but outside of that, was it all right? I want a Wonder Woman bag. And how did you guys pair? Because you have different flavors for everybody. So
yeah,
I know that one of my favorites is, of course, the pumpkin spice with Scarecrow, who's one of my favorite Batman villains. We got the dark roast for Batman, and then each one kind of has their own flavor. How did you guys incorporate the flavors and pick and choose that aspect?
Well, they let us do pretty much the Justice League and the villains
Nice.
that relate. So I'm like, well, that's pretty much everything,
Yeah, I
right?
mean that opens the door right there. You're like, sweet.
So it's not like the contract's just for Batman or just for Superman. So I think that part is actually unique, and we're pretty lucky to have that deal. Um, but as far as like the flavoring goes, I mean, we kind of I don't know. I mean, it's pretty easy. Usually, like Batman's Dark Knight roast. It's
That one
Wonder
speaks for
Woman.
itself for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like so we think of like the characters and like how can we relate? Like Wonder Woman, Paradise Island. Okay, it's coconut pecan.
Oh
And
yeah.
then like the Blue Beetle one was awesome. The
I
horchata.
did. That one was awesome. Yes.
Yeah. So we do our best to, match the flavors with the characters, and it doesn't always work out well. Like, sometimes like not every coffee bean goes well with any flavor. We're not going to just
Sure.
make, we're not just going to make a bag to sell a bag. Like it's got to be good. It's something that I like. We're trying something right now for Bane,
Oh, I
and
did see that tease. Yes.
so we've been trying out like some kind of like bourbon, and we're trying to like mix some different oil like flavors together. And I'm like, it's bourbon, like, and we're just like we play around with it. We're like, I say to Tony, like, what do you think of like back breaking bourbon? He's like, yes, it's got to be something
Yeah.
that we would get that
Spain is strong,
anyone
yeah,
would.
and bourbon I'm a big bourbon fan, so and bourbon is a really strong and popular flavor, so that would go hand in hand. That's really smart, and okay, so I'm not too sure how the brewing so how do you guys get the flavors incorporated then with the beans, and how does that roasting process work?
So the roasting is separate. Like Tony you got your light, medium, dark roast, and everything in between that. And then that has all kinds of different variables that Tony understands much better than I do. But as far as like the flavoring goes, we basically it's like what vanilla extract is, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's basically kind of like that, and
Okay.
it's like an oil, and you mix it in with the beans after the beans have been roasted and rested for a couple days. You just kind of mix it in there and let it soak for a while, and you
Just
know
you pick the flavors from
that's
there, and I gotta say too, I mean, you guys, it's one of the few coffees that when we were at MegaCon, have been afraid. I'm like, black coffee, I put a little creamer, oat creamer in it, but trying it, without any creamer, just taking the little shots and trying some of the different ones at MegaCon, for example, there's a lot of flavor, especially the Mad Love, the
yeah.
raspberry in there. That was a big hit. My wife fell in love with that one right off the bat and was the first comic book she ever gave me. We're actually going
Oh,
away for our 10-year wedding anniversary. But when this
cool.
comes out, we're on a cruise right now for our 10-year wedding anniversary. And so our first year, she gave me the comic Mad Love. Now, I was dumb back then. She said, "Hey, don't worry about doing anything for the anniversary." So I said, "Sweet." And then I wake up and there's a comic of Mad Love and everything. And it was very much she was going to kill me, Joker S. She was going to kill me. And I was like, "Oh, I messed up." But
No,
that is
no.
our special connection. So when we saw that one, I was like, "Oh, this is so cool." And then you guys even have like the little variety packs too for people to
Mhm.
try. So is that all of your flavors into the variety packs? How did you guys build the variety packs to be like this is the best of the best to get people hooked?
Yeah, that's what we started off with. We started with like 8 flavors in the box, and yeah, for just so people can sample it. But now we've got so many flavors, but still 8 bags in a box, and so now we kind of switch out the flavors, kind of randomly at this point. So, yeah, what was your question? Sorry.
No, no, you're right. That was good. That was right. You switch out the flavor.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Because
yeah,
I bought, the variety box for me. I was like, I love to try different things, try different flavors. So for anybody out there who may not be able to choose, that's a perfect way. And then I know you guys have some Ghost Machine. You even have a red coat tea. I was talking to Tony.
yeah.
How did the Ghost Machine? Was that another? Hey, do you guys want to work together like Warner Brothers was, or how did the Ghost Machine come in? Because they're still new. I'm in love with everything they do. First and
Oh, yeah.
foremost, like Horn, Hyde Street is one that I'm in love with, and Redcoat's my personal like favorite comic book out right now.
Yeah, yeah, no, they're awesome. I mean, like, if you've seen our bags, most of the art is from the Ghost Machine
Oh yeah,
guys.
I have
Just from
right. I've got the regular Ghost Machine, and then I have on the back of the bag right here for
yeah,
anybody on YouTube. I've got one with the Hyde Street's Blood Orange. So we got Mr. X-Ray, and then of course we got Pip, hanging with the cop. That scene where he's sitting in the
uh-huh.
fire with the cop there, right from there. So how did you get with? Was it just, oh, we got to get with them, or did you guys start reading their comics and were like, this would be really awesome?
Both really. I mean, our I'm trying to think. The second edition of our Dark Knight Roast is Jason's arc.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Yes.
the Green Lantern and Sinestro is Ivan's art. What else is there? Uh, all the Jokers. Those are all Jason as well. For the Blueberry Blast. So
That's right. Yes.
I was already picking and choosing the artists that I wanted to put on our DC bags.
Hmm.
But
And it just,
when I but yeah, so then like they created the Ghost Machine publishing company, whatever you call it, and I realized that they were going to MegaCon, like was it last year,
it
2004?
was last year because we got to cover they invited us as to come cover their panel for them on press, and I was
Cool.
geeked because it's like, oh my god, it's Jeff Johns, and I grew up his Flash run is why I love Flash. Flash is my favorite character, and of course their
Yeah,
Batman run. So for me, the cherry on top was getting to work with them and being like, oh my god, this is crazy. And their comics are just excellent. On top of that,
yeah, yeah. So, so Tony and I decided like let's go meet them, and they had this huge line, and
oh yeah,
I felt like we can't just go meet them. Like we can't stand in this line for an hour and leave our booth. So I just kind of, I don't know. I felt terrible, but I cut the line to meet Jeff Johnson,
I don't blame you.
and
I would have done the same.
I could feel like the anger on my back from people like
Everybody's just
looking
right through there, like, I'm gonna go by,
out.
I'm gonna swipe all the coffee off their table.
I'm like, I feel terrible and just awkward, but I think I'm trying to remember who was the first one. I think it was Jeff Johns who we went up to first, and we brought him coffee, and I was just like, hey, we should work together. Like I just ran, I didn't even know what to say to him. I had no plan. I just said, hey, we should work together
That's
and
the
do
best way to go for it
a
sometimes too.
ghost machine coffee. And he looked at the bags and he looked over at I think Jason, and he's like, have you seen this? And Jason's laughing. He's like, hey, that looks like my art. I didn't know there was even a thing with coffee. And from there, we kept talking, and I think maybe a month later we had signed a deal with them.
Is
So
see, that was all it was worth it. So everybody out there who was like, "How
absolutely.
could you?" Sometimes, you gotta take your shot at one
Oh
that's
yeah.
there. You have to, you can't. And it
In
worked out.
fact,
I yeah.
that the ghost roast, the first one bag we did,
Yeah.
was the first coffee that Jeff Johns ever drank, and now he drinks coffee.
Oh,
So,
really? So he wasn't a coffee drinker before that?
no,
Yeah,
not
because I
at
have that.
all.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so cool. And even, yeah, on the bag, for anybody that doesn't know, there is some Geiger artwork on the bag, which Geiger is another, I mean, it's Jeff John. It was fantastic. And
yeah.
the front obviously has their characters, so Rook and Geiger and uh Simon Peer, of course. But that's so cool. I had no idea like that. You can now be the one that says
I
these
converted
comic
him.
books are now fueled by our coffee, and that's your staple out there. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. So, so yeah, we're having a lot of fun with that, and we're working on the red coat tea. Um, just trying to finalize the flavor. It's got everything's got to be perfect with the character. It's got to be
Oh
good
yeah.
quality. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I know you guys have a couple shops. So Fort Myers, where you guys are at, makes sense. But how did the Montreal shop, how did that connection get built?
So the Montreal shop is run by my cousin Ronald.
Oh, no way.
And
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So he was my contact in Honduras. So that's where he's from. That's where my family lives. But he ended up moving to Montreal, and um, I guess I'm trying to remember how it really started. He helped us out with some shows for Calgary Fan Expo, Toronto,
Hmm.
and anyway, we were like for a while we were thinking like, how do we get like a distribution center in Canada? Because when we went to Canada the first time, the people there were just blown away by the quality of our coffee.
I love Canada. It's like my favorite place to go.
Yeah, and I was like, I remember thinking like I know like here like I don't know what to say like I just like one lady was telling me she's like, "You don't understand." Like, she's telling me, like, "The coffee that I have had makes me physically ill. Like, I cannot drink the coffee." And I didn't really, like, understand it, so I'm thinking, like, "What are you drinking? Maybe it's not really."
She's like, "Oh, are you sure? Is it my dad's coffee? Did you find his tin of coffee?
I'm like, "Where did this coffee come from?"
Let me see the can."
But but after, like, the first show, we had so many emails, so many people from Canada saying, like, "You need to have your coffee," because we were not shipping to Canada, because just the cost was outrageous to ship
Oh,
from here
yeah.
to there. And so we started thinking, like, "How do we get it, like, we need to figure this out." And then when I realized my cousin who moved there, we were like, "Well, he's perfect because he's already a nerd." Like, he already know he adores Ghost Machine crew, like, all their work, all the DC stuff.
Yeah.
So he was like, that's like he checks one mark off, like, good. He can sell, that's great. He's pretty much learning everything. Like, we're holding his hand through the whole entire process for, like, the roasting. Tony will be going up there soon to make sure he's got down the roasting
Oh, that's
perfectly. And yeah, and then I just ship him, like, the bags he needs, and he's gonna pretty much handle all of Canada, get his team getting going, and that's pretty much the plan right now. So
that's aw it just love how all these little moments, it seems a lot of they just meant to be almost kind of things like, "Oh, my cousin's in Canada. Oh, there's Jeff Johns at Me," and now it works
yeah,
out, and here you guys are doing this really, really just crazy cool things because you're right, nerds and coffee kinda go hand in hand, especially if you're at a convention. I mean, you're
oh
most
yeah,
of them now are 4 days, and you're on your feet just nonstop, nonstop. So it's really nice, I know, to, like, swing by the table, get some coffee. That was always my saving grace because you get to the convention, your first thought is, "Where's the coffee?" Because a lot of people are doing the after parties and all of that kind of stuff. So, what other conventions do you guys have planned out? Do you have certain ones? I know we talked about Dallas a little bit, but do you in MegaCon's obviously the home show, but what ones are you guys for sure looking at doing each year
uh,
or even this year? I guess.
yeah. For each year, Dallas. So MegaCon, Dallas, Denver in July.
Ooh, I love
Um,
Denver.
yeah, that's one of our favorites, and then for sure New York Comic Con.
Oh man, New York is that's one that has I have not been to yet. It's always my birthday is right around the weekend of New York, so I've been trying to get up there. This year I'm going to be doing a Disney half marathon instead, which what am I doing? I don't know, but because I actually talked to Tim who helped out the booth, and him and I are going to be running that one together. And I was like, I guess I'll see you down there and
Yeah.
all that connection. But that's great. Do you guys have any plans of going to different cons next year, or you just kind of slow roll it out from there?
Yeah, I think I was actually looking at next year. I think we're planning to do, besides, like, all the major Canada shows. So, like, Toronto will probably do, like, the Calgary,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
Vancouver, Toronto, and then some other shows that he can do in Montreal. And then Tony or I may go to some of those shows. Depends how exhausted we are.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but
It's a
yeah,
lot of work.
yeah, it really is. I think last year we did. I think we did 12 shows last year,
Oh wow.
and then so by, like, I think after New York Comic Con, like, we just, like, shut down for 2 weeks straight. And, like, we didn't take any calls. We let, like, our team handle orders, and we were just
Yeah.
like zombies for
You, well,
2
you
weeks.
need that. I mean, because people don't realize. I can't even imagine because you guys bring a ton of stuff. Do you have to ship it all there in advance? Because other than that, you're bringing just bag after bag, and what's all in there, and it's just pure coffee of boxes just going through. How does that? Would you have to ship in advance then?
We drove.
Oh, so that's even more. First of all, I mean, great. You get to see the country. As somebody who has driven from New Hampshire to Florida, back to New Hampshire, and then to Idaho and back, it's not especially the Midwestern states or like the
Yeah.
middle. It's not easy, folks. So
No,
that's
it
that's
sounds
even more impressive.
fun. It sounds fun, but it's definitely exhausting, especially Florida. There's nothing to see in Florida.
Oh, and that's almost
Not
it
like
feels
you're
like you're
driving
never
along
getting
the
out.
coast.
Yeah. I've driven when I lived in Florida, I-10 because I lived in Destin, Florida, just about so that to Jacksonville, it's 5 hours and it's just
Of
nothing
nothing.
there. And then, of course, people think Florida, oh, you've got Miami, the Keys, and they don't realize how far apart those are. And then there's really nothing in the middle of Florida as you're driving either, but swamps and
Right,
forests and
exactly.
things. So it is. And then, of course, North Carolina, South Carolina are all just exhausting, and then eventually you hit traffic. So I do not blame you guys for shutting down for 2 weeks. You absolutely have earned that. And kind of before we wrap up, is there any current comics or movies that you're either excited to read or watch, or that you're really into at the moment?
Well, I haven't started reading Hush 2 yet. That's definitely on my pile
Oh
of
yeah, the reading list that never actually goes away.
just
It just keeps
grows. It keeps
somehow keeps
growing.
growing. Yo, yeah, I know how that is.
What else is on my list? Well, Superman, the movie Superman. So we're going to be promoting that a lot
Oh yeah.
coming up in July. What else is there? I don't know. You're more aware of it,
Well,
everything
I
than
I
I
will say,
am.
if you haven't read the absolute Batman run yet, being a big Batman fan, that
Oh
is
yeah, I've
worth.
got the pile. It's in the
Oh yeah,
pile.
that's worth it. Of course, I would, just every absolute, because I've been big into Zatanna, Aquaman from Jeremy Adams. That one's been a really big hit. I will also. I'm a bit Flash, Batman, and Aquaman are my top three, of course, but uh, Jeff Lemire's writing Flash, Absolute Flash. So those are great. And then on the Marvel side, there's been a lot of good stuff like Ultimate Wolverine and things of that. So I'd read those. But then, of course, the Ghost Machine. But you're right. There's so
Yeah,
many good comics out there right now. And Image is doing a lot of cool things. And then you've got IDW, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, excuse me. Geez. So I'm with you 100%. I keep going. And I'm gonna read those comics, I swear. And I've recently gotten into Daredevil. I've never had a favorite Marvel character until now. Daredevil is my entire personality. So I'm
like the
going
show
through the
or the comics.
well, I've been into Marvel. Lauren's the Marvel girl. Me, I'm DC. That's just me through and
Yeah.
through. I've got multiple Batman tattoos. Like that's my guy. So I've never had a favorite Marvel character. I've always loved the MCU. But as far as the comics go, I'm like, yeah, okay. I never found the one for me. But rewatching Daredevil Netflix series to get ready for Born Again, and then going through Born Again, I'm like, I gotta read these comics. So I started with Born Again from Frank Miller, and now I'm obsessed. I need to get, Chip Zdarsky's Charles Soule's run, and there's a new Daredevil Cold Day in Hell that's out. It's going to be a three issue series that's out. That's really good too. So Daredevil is like my Marvel guy now, and I'm trying to read those, and I will get there. I promise. I will read every comic I have gotten.
Right, right.
I'm with you. But aside from that, where can people find you out there if they're like, hey, Comics on Coffee? I know you can probably Google it, but where can they find your guys' website, and what kind of things do you offer aside from coffee? Because I know there's a really cool club that they could also join.
Yes. So yeah, comicsoncoffee.com is our website. You'll see all of our coffees that we have, the DC line, the Ghost Machine. We've got some Lord of the Rings. Actually, the
Yes.
Lord of the Rings is really that's our. I have to say, the Lord of the Rings Dark Roast is better than the Batman.
That's the
In my
first bag I bought, and I really, really enjoy that one as well.
That's the one that we sold at New York Comic Con, and people did not hesitate to spend $8 for a cup of coffee. They kept coming back for more, and every
It's
single day,
worth
and they told
it's
everyone that they passed that they have to try it to get that
That's
dark
awesome.
roast.
Yes, that's amazing. That's a great feeling too. Yes.
Yeah, so it's definitely a really great one. The tea is incredible. Um, but yeah, our subscription service, that's something that we started out pretty much since the very beginning, and it's something that I've really enjoyed as the co-founder of this company because like you're signing up for automatic subscription. Yes, you're getting your coffee automatically delivered to your doorstep, once a week,
Oh yeah.
once a month, whatever you want. But we like to throw in like a free comic book. We always throw in stickers, but usually we try to get to know the customer like on a more personal level. Like I
Yeah.
tell them
Cool.
if there's anything like maybe your bag never arrived, maybe porch pirates got your bag, whatever. Like
Oh yeah.
we want these customers to call us and talk to us because I don't know, you just kind of develop a relationship. You get to know these customers, and several of them are like friends to us now. You know,
That's so cool.
they've got my personal number, and they can text me and just say like, you know, love the comic book, whatever, anything, or
Right.
send me something different next week or anything, and like I started doing some drawing for customers now, and they're loving that because I told Tony, I'm like, I need to get back into drawing, even if I
Yeah.
don't have time, I got to make time, and so I put like 15 minutes, every night, and I'll draw something, and I just write, this is for Seth. He's been with us for like 5 years now, so I'm going to draw his. I know he loves Superman or whatever, and I'll draw him Superman and throw that in with his coffee bag, and they get their package in the mail. They open it, like oh, coffee's here,
That
cool. But
is
they
so
see
cool.
this cool comic book, and they see these cool stickers they haven't seen yet. And they see this cool sketch by the owner. We just really love it. So, and they're getting discounts, so they're not paying full price for a bag of coffee.
I
You should join it.
Yeah, I that is especially nowadays. I thought I did through our thing, but I am absolutely going to first and foremost because I'm ordering, almost once a week at this point. But I thought I did through
Yeah,
our thing, but that is in the modern, I am a my master's is in marketing, for example, and seeing how non-personable all these corporations and companies are, that's what stands out to people is that it's that personability, and you guys are real human beings on the other side, and you're doing that and personalizing, and the fact it's the little things. Everybody gets bills
yeah,
or junk mail, so when you get that package that's for you and it says your name, and then inside of that's little
yeah,
fun gifts, that's like my favorite thing on earth. I mean, there's somebody at the GalaxyCon randomly after meeting us one night came back the next day with a 3D printed Nightwing Batarang, and this is the coolest thing ever, like gave it to us. And it's things like that that just make people's day beyond the wicked good coffee that they're getting. So that is a really
yeah,
cool
yeah,
idea. I highly recommend everybody go out there and join that for sure. I
yeah. You just go check out our website, scroll down, or maybe I think the subscription. You'll see that like kind of right on the top right corner of
Yeah,
the
it's
website.
right there, it's really
Yeah,
easy.
you just log in, create an account, log in, pick your, whatever choice you want, and then even with that, you can do like coarse ground, you can do espresso ground, grounds, whatever. So it doesn't have to be just whole bean or
Yeah,
drip, regular medium
you
drip. You
can
can do whatever.
just like you like it, exactly. And I
Mhm.
cannot talk about it enough. Your guys' company is one that I'm super glad I found. Laura and I both great, great big fans, and just the comic book aspect. It's great to connect with fellow nerds and get involved. And there are comics out there, and you can just so much fun. So I really appreciate you taking the time and getting to hang out and chat a little bit about comics on coffee and some of our favorite things. For everybody out there, you can go right here in the show notes. The comicsoncoffee.com will be there. We will also make sure we explicitly put where you could sign up for the subscription service if that's something you want to do. But aside from that, I really appreciate it, Tanya. Thank you again. And hopefully we'll be chatting soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Everybody else, we'll be back next week with our Andor recap, of course, because Andor's getting ready to come out. So fellow Star Wars fans, get ready. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers.